Welcome to the America 250 PA Start Here, America Did podcast, telling the unique stories that make up the diverse fabric of Pennsylvania.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Sydney Harris. Let's talk about Pennsylvania winters. Cold, crisp, actually, let's just call it what it is, downright freezing. January is officially the coldest month of the year here in the Keystone States. According to worldclimate.com, the average high barely scrapes 38 degrees Fahrenheit, while the average low plummets to a frosty 22 degrees. Sure, we're not quite Alaska or North Dakota, but let's be honest, January in Pennsylvania is no joke. Now, you might be wondering why I'm rattling off these chilly weather stats. Here's the twist. Every January and February, a bold and brave group of people willingly, yes, willingly, jumps into freezing water. Why? All for an incredible cause. In today's episode, we're diving into the world of the Special Olympics Pennsylvania Polar Plunge with Heather Schreiner, the Regional Executive Director of Special Olympics Pennsylvania. Heather serves the Northeast region, covering Lackawanna, Luzerne, Pike, Susquehanna, Wayne, and Wyoming Counties. Together, these plunges have made an astounding impact. In total, Special Olympics Pennsylvania Polar Plunges raised over $2.4 million last year, with more than 13,000 participants taking the plunge. Today, we'll explore the heartwarming stories, the incredible impact of these fundraisers, and what makes the Polar Plunge such a thrilling and chilling annual tradition. So grab a blanket, get cozy, and join me as we take a deep dive, or should I say a plunge, into one of Pennsylvania's boldest winter traditions. Let's jump in. Thank you so much for being here, Heather.
Thank you for having me.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar, can you share what the Special Olympics Pennsylvania's Polar Plunge is all about?
Sure. So Special Olympics athletes are brave. Many have faced significant adversities, such as bullying and health concerns, and we're asking the community to brave cold water in the winter to honor and support the bravery of those athletes. It's also about joy. So Plunge Day is fun. In addition to the exhilaration of taking the plunge or watching others jump, there's music and games, as well as giveaways and other activities in what we call Plunge Town.
How do the funds raised from the Polar Plunge directly impact those Special Olympics athletes that you talked about here in Pennsylvania?
Special Olympics Pennsylvania provides year-round sports training and competition to over 15,000 children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the state. We also provide leadership opportunities and programming aimed at improving health. All of this provides to athletes, their families, volunteers, free of charge. And 100% of the proceeds from Plunge go directly to development and continuation of these programs, so athletes and the community can continue experiencing the joy of Special Olympics.
And every year, you're asking the community to be as brave as the Special Olympics athletes. Mm-hmm. We see people lining up to jump into this freezing water. What do you think drives the participants to take that plunge, and what does it mean to the athletes you support?
Doesn't everyone want to feel the freezing cold blast of cold water on a cold day all over their body? Many people are thrill seekers. Others might have Polar Plunge on their bucket list. When I first proposed to the athletes about forming a plunge team, I got a resounding heck yeah from one of our athlete leaders. I'd also heard a story last year from a family about an athlete in the greater Lehigh Valley area. She grew up being labeled as nonverbal, meaning she didn't use her voice to communicate. Joining Special Olympics and forming friendships helped her to begin using her voice. And when a video of the plunge was shown to her and she was asked if she wanted to participate, she used her voice to strongly say yes. People also love giving back and forming a sense of community, and we provide a fun atmosphere to do both with the Polar Plunge.
That's amazing. I love to hear that this is giving so much inspiration and joy to the Special Olympics athletes, but also really getting the community involved in something greater than themselves.
Joy is one of our favorite words.
I love that, joy. And I think it's, and that's so fun. Who doesn't want to jump into freezing cold water? I think that shows just people's joy and what they do and supporting your cause. So speaking of causes throughout Pennsylvania, there are actually 9 polar plunges across the Commonwealth. So I want to talk about your plunge specifically. Can you tell us the story behind the Northeast Polar Plunge, how it began and how it's grown over the years?
And actually, I'm going to start with just, saying you're correct. There are 9 polar plunges across the state. Anyone can read about them on plungepa.org. And they range from jumping into lakes to rivers to above ground pools. Over 13,000 plungers participated last year and brought in over a record-breaking $2.4 million across the state. A lot of that is attributed to the Pittsburgh Polar Plunge, which is at Acrisure Stadium. They brought in over $1 million last year, which we can't compete with yet. As I said, joy is one of our favorite words in Special Olympics, and here in the Northeast, yet is one of my favorite words as we're growing the region. This past January was actually our first polar plunge for Special Olympics here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. So I joined Special Olympics in July of 22 as a regional executive director. And one of my initial goals was working towards having a large-scale fundraising event, such as a plunge in this region. Montage Mountain Resorts was approached, and they were eager to join us in this endeavor. So this past January, we had 244 people register for the plunge. Of which 194 actually made the jump on that day, in addition to roughly 200 students and faculty that took the plunge the previous day during what we call our Cool Schools plunge. So this past January, we had some excellent partners to help us plan, execute, and fund, things in addition to Montage Mountain Resorts, which included Sheets and Wawa, among others. Our presenting sponsor for 2025 Plunge in the Northeast is My Sills Transitional Skills Center, which provides half-day independent living services to students aged 14 to 22 throughout Northeastern Pennsylvania. And then with their assistance, in addition to the other sponsors, volunteers, colleges, everyone, the January 2025 Northeast Polar Plunge promises to be bigger and better than the first one.
And I have to ask, are you going to be participating in the plunge?
So this past plunge, right, our first one, I was the self-proclaimed queen of the chickens. And so I didn't. And I used the excuse that I need to continue executing the event.
That makes sense.
And one of our athletes last year challenged me to take the plunge. And I have a hard time saying no to any athlete requests that are reasonable. So yes, short answer, yes, I will be one of the last ones to jump, so I can still at least execute the day.
Wow, that I love to hear that. That even as the executive director, of course, you are in charge of making this whole event possible. But just because an athlete asked you to, you're going to dive into that freezing water. So
yeah, I mean, he didn't jump last year either, and I said, I mean, you're either jumping next to me or holding hands with me to do it or something, but you're going to join me in this endeavor. So
right. So
don't challenge me to something that you don't want to do.
So has he agreed to?
Hesitantly, but yes, I think the desire to see me go through it is really helping him to also do it.
That's wonderful. And one more question. The participants in Pittsburgh, the event is taking place at Acrisure Stadium. Is it outside of the stadium?
Yeah.
Okay. Into the river?
No. Above ground pools, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
a lot of our plunge sites utilize above ground pools, including Philadelphia, for instance. So they plunge at Citizens Bank Park. So in the parking lot outside where the Phillies play, in an above ground pool. That one is one of our largest. That's February 1st. And then Pittsburgh, which has become a staple to the city of Pittsburgh, and that's February 22nd.
Okay. And remind me of the date of yours.
Yeah, January 25th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I know our listeners might be eager to be involved after listening to you talk about this wonderful organization and event. And so going off of that, for individuals who actually cannot participate in person, can you talk a little bit about the Polar Pop?
So a polar pop involves popping a water balloon over your head, preferably outdoors on a cold day, really get with the polar theme. But there are variations, such as raising money to pop balloons over the head of an administrator or a boss or someone else. And we welcome people to record their polar pops and share them on social media, tagging Special Olympics Pennsylvania. The Polar Pop is not the only way to show your support for Special Olympics and the plunge without actually plunging. I mentioned last year I was the self-proclaimed queen of the chickens. And so we do have a 2 chicken to plunge option. Participants would still fundraise and either come out to the plunge to watch others go through this or stay at home and wait for the photos of the day. But at our Northeast Polar Plunge at Montage Mountain this past January, we really made it a good time to be a chicken. We started our event with opening ceremonies, just like our state competitions do. So part of opening ceremonies, the chickens, right? Those of us not plunging, we danced the chicken dance wearing yellow feather boas. We threw rubber chickens into the audience and we just celebrated the chickens on plunge day.
The people who still wanted to be involved but didn't want to take that jump. That is incredible.
Yeah, we even had an inflatable chicken costume. So more of that this next time.
That is so fun. And I'm thinking the feathers will at least keep you warm too. So moving on to the next program that you guys do, the Special Olympics Polar Plunge has a Cool Schools initiative. You actually brought this up earlier. What is this? And can you talk about how many schools are actually involved in your region?
So Cool Schools, it's a term that we use for fundraising endeavors with our local school districts, most of whom have joined Special Olympics as unified champion schools, meaning that the elementary, middle, or high school has a unified club with co-presidents, one of which has an intellectual disability and the other one does not. Part of what that club does, besides spreading inclusion, is planning school-wide initiatives that we call whole school engagements. So these schools also offer unified sports, most of which in the state either offer indoor bocce in the winter or track and field in the spring. We do have schools down in Philly, for instance, that have soccer instead. The schools plan fundraising events, right? So like the Polar Pop that I already mentioned, some schools come out to the plunge in person, which I'm happy to report we had 5 schools come out this past January. And so far for our next Cool Schools Day on January 24th, there's 10 schools that are interested in coming out. But a third option that schools often do to raise money as part of Cool Schools is what we call a rain rally. So students raise money to be able to get out of school early, join their friends outside where a local fire station has come with their trucks, prepared to aim the fire hoses in an arced fashion to create a rain shower so the kids can run through that.
And I'm guessing this is still in January on a very cold day.
No, schools tend to do that in the spring, just so as not to create the safety issue, right? Of what if the temperature is too low that day here in the greater Northeast. And so the rain shower is created and that freezes and becomes a slip hazard. So those actually tend to be in late April and May.
I love to hear that in just 1 year, you've gone from 5 to 10 schools. You've doubled your schools and your interest. And I think that really shows just how fast this is growing in your region and how many people want to get involved. So I'd love to congratulate you on that. That is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, our schools are amazing. You had asked about the number. So 28 right now in Northeast, and we are continuing to grow that number across the state.
And I do think that just shows how remarkable Pennsylvania students are and their support for people who need it. I do know that you are only on your second year and you're growing astronomically, but I'd love to hear any memorable stories from last year's Polar Plunge or Polar Plunges that you have gone to. And these stories can be either from participants or athletes. Do you have any that you can share?
Oh God, I always have stories. Well, here's just a little story, I guess, about an experience I had with the Philly Plunge. So I volunteered to help out at the Philly Plunge in February, and there they have a lot of local mascots that come out and take part in it. And so that's a part of their opening. And, there's Wally from Wawa, and there's the Philly Fanatic, and many others were a part of that. And they carried buckets of ice up to the above ground pools, and they were throwing ice in the pool mainly. There were some more unruly mascots like Gritty, for instance, who was flinging ice into the audience. So trying to make the cold waters colder. So that was a good time and something that I'd love to incorporate in the Northeast. We had some fun with mascots ourselves. Our mascot for Special Olympics, his name is Chill E. Bear. And Chill E is a polar bear, of course.
Oh.
And so we had a television station want to do some early morning interviews with us for Friday morning this past January. And at first, hearing the question of, can we meet you on the mountain at 4:45 in the morning was very, very shocking. But it was a really fun set of interviews. One of our employees here at Special Olympics Pennsylvania, Denise, dressed as Chill E. Sorry to ruin the fun, but it's not a real polar bear. But she really had a lot of fun during those early morning hours, doing some antics in the background while myself and some others were being interviewed, and we were trying to keep as straight a face as possible. So that's a good time. We had, a local hero, Dominic DeLuca, who is one of the captains of Penn State football. He had gone to high school in the area, at Wyoming area. He, joined forces with us for this last plunge to help us raise awareness about the plunge. And the athletes were just so excited to meet him and be able to get pictures with him. And so he, thoroughly accepted this challenge and, joined kind of the athlete team to jump in the water at the same time as them. And it was a wonderful experience to see the joy on all the athletes' faces.
And you just bring that up again, joy. I mean, I could imagine how much excitement would be garnered from Dominic DeLuca being there. And even those mascots, I've heard through the grapevine that they can, well, especially Philadelphia mascots. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I heard they can be a little unruly, but super fun. America 250 PA had the mascots come to a event that we had in Philadelphia, and they were so much fun. So I can only imagine the excitement that they really got for the participants and the athletes.
It was a good time. We had some mascots here locally. For those who are familiar with teams in this area, we did have Tux came out, who is the penguin mascot for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. We had Champ, who is the mascot for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Rail Riders, our local baseball team. They did the chicken dance with Chili, and we have some wonderful photos of that too.
Are those up on your social media for our listeners to maybe go and check them out?
In the coming weeks, I'm going to continue to add some more, and that would be SOPA Northeast for Facebook. So SOPA Northeast.
I just want to move on. We talked about the past and we talked about your favorite memories. I'd love to hear your vision for the future of the Northeast Polar Plunge. Are there any goals you're working toward?
Yes, we always have goals. Just like we always have stories, we always have goals. Our main one is increasing awareness of who we are, what we do, and also increasing just the opportunities that we can give to our athletes. People are, when they hear Special Olympics, they think of like an annual event, USA Games or World Games or a track and field day at a local school, which is awesome and all a part of Special Olympics, but they're not aware, right, that it's year round. There's, 23 different sports that they're training in 3 different seasons, that we have the health programming I mentioned and opportunities to improve the leadership skills of athletes. And then all of this is at, no charge to them. And so really would love to get connected more with TV and radio and podcasts, get the messaging out there a lot more this year about the plunge and more so just about Special Olympics Pennsylvania. Some kind of number goals that we have is love to at least double the number of plungers from our first year. Dare I say, I have a goal to almost triple the funds that we brought in last year. So, as a first-time event, the number of athletes that signed up was right around 200 for each day. Great for a first-time event. But now that people are aware, had fun, want to do it again, spread the word to their friends and family. And I just want to continue growing and improving our plunge.
I know that you will, because the work you're doing is incredible. And you went from 5 schools actually being on site to 10. So your goal itself is already happening. We have faith in you here at America 250 PA and are just so excited to see the amazing work that you continue to do. For our listeners who would like to get involved with your organization or even take part in that annual Polar Plunge, what is the best way to do so?
If you are looking to engage in any of the other plunges across the state, like we mentioned, there are 9, including ours. The best place to go for that is plungepa.org. Click on a map for whichever plunge you would like to go to. Trying to be a little bit of an overachiever, I do have a shortcut here for the Northeast at Montage Mountain, which is northeastplunge.org, and that will take you directly to the registration page for the one that takes place on January 25th.
Heather, that's all I have for you today. I just want to say thank you so much for not only being here, but for all that you do and your support of our amazing Pennsylvania Special Olympics athletes.
Thank you. Again, thank you for having me. And I do the work because I love, I love it. Our athletes are amazing. Special Olympics Pennsylvania, over 50 years, ran mainly by our volunteers. And they are just a wonderful group. And none of this could be possible without them.
Thank you again, Heather.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well. The Special Olympics Polar Plunge is so much more than just a bold leap into icy water. It's about creating opportunities, building communities, and supporting the incredible athletes who are at the heart of the Special Olympics. It also shines a spotlight on the countless Pennsylvanians who strive each day to be a beacon of positivity and change in the world. If today's episode has inspired you to take the plunge, or maybe even just a polar pop, don't wait to get involved. With plunges happening across the Commonwealth, there are plenty of ways to join in. Whether you're raising funds, volunteering, or cheering on participants, every contribution makes an incredible difference. And as Heather reminded us, it's all about celebrating courage, inclusion, and the power of coming together for truly a great cause. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Remember, whether you're bundling up or braving the cold, stay bold, stay involved, and as always, stay PA proud.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassandra Coleman, Executive Director of America 250 PA. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. We encourage you to learn more about America 250 PA and send us your podcast ideas at america250pa.org.
This has been the America 250 PA Start Here, America Did podcast, produced by Commonwealth Media Services. Stay tuned for more epic Pennsylvania stories at america250pa.org.